Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. I want to address the Airbnb controversy, particularly the one that we have in New York City. As many of you know, and some of you may not know, is that Airbnb, there are rules and regulations to this, and they differ not just from state to state, but from city to city. And before you get involved in an Airbnb, you need to know what the laws are where you live or where you plan to have Airbnb. So in New York City particularly, the Airbnb must be for 30 days minimum. You cannot have a weekend Airbnb. It's against the law. You might say, well, how can I get caught? The way you get caught is if there's someone who may not like you, and that's pretty easy to get, honestly, nowadays. Well, not even nowadays. It's been, you've had haters, honestly. It's not something new. It's been around for a long time. But what they'll do is they'll call the authorities on you and they'll send someone to investigate to see if you have someone in your property, and then they'll ask that person if they have a lease or some sort of contract. And when they look at that, that's how they'll know whether or not you're doing an Airbnb, and if you are, for how long you're keeping those people in your property. And what I feel that is unfair about this whole situation is that, in New York, you have tenants, and sometimes the tenants will use part of their property as an Airbnb. So if your tenants are not using it properly, you as the landlord can get in trouble. Let me also go into line and say this. A lot of people like to say that politics and real estate have nothing to do with each other. This is also proof that that is totally untrue. Why? Because Carlina Rivera, who is a councilwoman in New York City, is the one that set this law moving forward. And the reason why she's against Airbnb is because she is trying to preserve affordable housing. And she feels that Airbnb forces rents to rise and causes gentrification, minimizing affordable housing in the city. So she actually is the one, and she had some support from Corey Johnson, who actually is a property manager that uses Airbnb from time to time. And he says, many people who use it to dodge taxes. And it does cause some safety issues, or it can in certain situations. So again, here we have politics stepping in, regulating what people should do or how people should make money, right? In addition to this, I also want to point out the fact that it's not the president that enforced this. It's not the governor. It's not the mayor. It is a local councilwoman here in New York City that set this mandate that has affected the whole entire city, not just her district or her area where she really governs. So again, this is why local elections are important, and this is why I emphasize that you should vote, number one, but you should vote all the way down the line, not just stop and say, oh, I'm only going to vote for the president, or oh, I'm only going to vote for the president and the governor, or the president, governor, and mayor. No, you need to vote for the president, the governor, the mayor, your district council, your city council, so on and so forth, all the way down the line. Any single board that's governing, particularly the land where you live, you should be voting. Okay, use your rights. Because if you don't, they may be taken away from you, or you may be limited in how you use it. And I think that this is a primary example. All right. Now, what does Airbnb? Airbnb, to a certain degree, is lobbying against this. They say it's unfair hardship to the hosts because many people who use Airbnb, yes, you have some people who use it totally for profit, and I'm not against that, and I'm actually for it. But you do have some people who really do need that extra income. You understand? Some hosts who maybe, let's say they're disabled for whatever reason, and they're just not making enough money. And that little extra that they can get from somebody who stays in an extra bedroom that they may have on the weekend, really helps them out, because everything is expensive in New York City, even the food. All right. So Airbnb, their argument is that these laws violate people's privacy, and it's also designed to benefit the hotel industry. And I'm in agreement with that. I think that that is definitely true, that it helps those, it's really helping the hotel industry. I really don't see where it is hurting affordable housing in New York City at all, to be quite honest with you. Because it's really not that many people here in New York City that would buy a home and turn the whole home into Airbnb. They may do it once in a while, but not necessarily. They weren't really doing it on a permanent basis. Do I think Airbnbs need to be regulated? Yes. I just don't agree with the particular regulation of people have to live, or the minimum amount of days that they can stay is 30. I think that's a bit outrageous. And then here's the other thing. Sometimes the hotels in New York get full. Whenever there's like any political convention, or sometimes when, let's say, there's a playoffs somewhere, like with baseball, we have our Met Stadium and what have you. The hotels get full, and there are people that need a place to stay. Airbnb would be the next best bet as far as letting someone. I don't see anything wrong with somebody, whether they are a landlord or a tenant, letting somebody stay who needs to come to attend those type of events. Even business conventions. Sometimes you have more than one business convention going on at one time. And yes, all of the hotels, believe it or not, it's a big city, we have a lot of hotels, but all of them can be booked. All right. So that's pretty much my 2 cents on it. And again, I'd like to reiterate, I don't think it's fair to landlords, because as you know, I'm a landlord. I own property. I'm okay with, I have a good tenant, and I'm okay with her having an Airbnb host. But now I'm going to have to curtail that, because if she doesn't administer it right, I can get in trouble. And I don't like that part. Now, I do know that some people, they have set up an LLC, and they'll have that person sign the contract with the LLC, and then have the LLC contract say that they are renting the property for a month. And that's how many of them are able to get away with that. I'm not too sure if that's even though I see a lot of that on YouTube, I'm not too sure if that is legit and the most legal way. I haven't really delved into it that much. I haven't asked my my attorneys if that's okay as of yet. I was considering it. I was actually considering Nurse B&B, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the fence at the moment. But anyway, I'm just curious, how do you guys feel? Particularly those of you who live in New York or New York City, or those of you who may live in a city where it's similar, where you only have 30, where the minimum is 30 days, and that you can't have any you can't host any weekend guests. How do you feel about that? I'd like to know your answers. For those of you who are listening to me on the podcast, feel free to come over to YouTube because I will be posting it, and you can add your 2 cents in at the end of the video in the comment section. And for those of you who are on YouTube listening to this, also drop me a line in the comment section and let me know how you feel. All right, guys, that's all I have for you tonight. Thanks for listening. Feel free to share this amongst your friends. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.